Hello and welcome to episode 93 of Midweek News. Let's get started. Firefox 130 is now available. New features include the ability to translate selected portions of text to different languages after a full page translation. Overscroll animations are default enabled on Linux. Firefox Labs settings page makes it easier to try experimental features, and improvements to the context menu copy-paste features. Microsoft now says Windows 11 users will not be able to uninstall recall feature. The KB 5041865 update included the option to uninstall the controversial snapshotting feature. While Microsoft is not allowing users to completely uninstall the feature, it can be disabled. I may be cynical, but I just don't trust the claims from Microsoft. Square Enix invests in Playtron for their PlaytronOS. PlaytronOS is a Fedora Silverblue based Linux OS. Playtron is working with direct integrators, so in addition to Steam, you will see Good Old Games, Epic Games, and other platforms directly. Getting endorsement from Square Enix is an interesting development. I'm not a big gamer when it comes to recent titles, but this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Canva to hike subscription prices up to 300%. Being a Canva user to make thumbnails, my heart sank when I saw this story. It seems initially it will be focused on their team's subscription, which doesn't impact me personally, but will not be a welcome change at the library. Firefox 131 beta news. Some of the things you can expect include further refinements and updates to the translation features. Firefox will temporarily remember when users grant permissions to websites. More support for SVG2, the long-awaited cookie banner blocker, better stability on Linux systems with the latest NVIDIA graphics drivers, and the release is planned for October 1st. D-Link will not fix remote code execution flaws in old DIR846W routers. This particular model is no longer supported. D-Link has stated that when products reach end of support and/or end of life, they can no longer be supported and firmware development ceases. I probably don't have to mention to people listening to this, but maybe there's someone new you need to remind that network equipment does have an expiration for production use. This particular model was primarily sold outside the US. The Zen Browser is a no Google zone with tiling. If you've not seen the Zen Browser yet, it is a Firefox-based browser which brings tiling, workspaces, and zero Google code. Still in the alpha development stage, in my brief testing, it has been pretty stable. Zen is trying to accomplish many of the things that the Chromium-based Arc browser attempted, but in a slightly more moderate way. One of the standout features is the vertical tab bar, which is an interesting twist and a feature that is not yet in mainstream Firefox. If you want to take your browsing to the next level, you may want to keep an eye on the development of Zen. I will surely be watching for the first stable release. The CrowdStrike incident exposed the urgent need for modern DevOps practices. The article examines the underlying case for this outage and ways it could have been prevented. More testing and staged rollouts would have likely caught it before it affected 8.5 million devices worldwide, which has been reported previously is probably a bit of a conservative number. We will see in the coming months whether any real changes are made by CrowdStrike and Microsoft, or if this is all just blowing smoke up our hind parts. Audacity 3.6.2 is out. New legacy effects section has been added. Contains the old limiter, compressor, and classic filters. This is mainly a bug fix release. Ubuntu's new Security Center is closer to a stable release. Underlying improvements and UI tweaks are front and center in the latest development version. The Security Center will be in part a front end to manage Snap app permissions. There was originally some integration for Ubuntu Pro, but that has been removed in stable and edge versions. You can install Security Center from the Snap Store if you are impatient and want to test it now. Qemu 9.1.0 has been released. This release contains more than 2,800 commits from 263 authors. We will see if this gets folded into the Proxmox release in the fall. The NIST, Cybersecurity Framework, and CTEM. The release of this article coincides with the recent release of CSF 2.0 and adds it to CTEM, or Continuous Threat Exposure Management from Gartner. The article is definitely an interesting read. Intel could use TSMC exclusively to build Arrow Lake processor family. It sounds like the Intel 18A process has moved along well enough that they're shifting focus to 20A. If they offload 18A production to TSMC, they would keep their fabs clear to work on the next generation. An interesting development for sure. Time will tell if they reach the point AMD did years back and sell off at least part of their fabrication plants. Ubuntu 24.10 default wallpaper and Mascot artwork have been revealed. The 24.10 release has been dubbed Oracular Oriole. There will also be some special 20th anniversary surprises. Ubuntu, you might recall, has been around since October 2004. It's hard to believe that nearly 20 years has gone by already. Filezilla 1.9.0 has been released. There are a handful of new features along with bug fixes in this release. If you're a Filezilla user, grab the latest version now. Microsoft Office 2024 will have ActiveX controls disabled by default. Office 2024 will launch in October. ActiveX has been around since 1996 and enabled developers to create interactive objects embedded in Office documents. I, for one, welcome this change for the few times I actually have to use Microsoft Office. Kaspersky to transfer U.S. customers to UltraAV after ban. I am glad I migrated from Kaspersky when I did at the library. Before this article, I had never actually heard of UltraAV. Seems like an interesting move. Their AV product isn't available on Linux, so I'm not going to be looking too much further into it, but it may be an interesting solution for some. The AMD RX 6650 XT is a great budget 1080p GPU. AMD GPUs are well supported under Linux as well as Windows. The Sapphire model is available sub $200 at the time this video is being prepared. This might be a great budget buy if you want to try out the PlaytronOS that was mentioned earlier in this episode. macOS 15, known as Sequoia, to be released in mid-September. This is one of the earliest macOS releases in the last decade. This sounds exciting on the surface, but with some early reports saying that this is going to be the macOS equivalent of Windows Vista, I'm going to wait until the 15.1 release is ready to install it on my Mac Mini. GNOME 47 release candidate available for public testing. This release brings experimental color management protocol support. The Nautilus 47 release candidate file manager brings new goodies to the file chooser and adds support for extracting bzip to tar files. Various other changes throughout the GNOME desktop interface make this something to look forward to. And that, my friends, will bring us to the end of Midweek News episode 93 for September 12th, 2024. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.